wanted to make a quick video on how things were going with the Foundations course. For those who aren't familiar, this is a course that's being taught by volunteers at Make Haven. It's a makerspace in New Haven, Connecticut, and basically it takes you through all the different ways of fabricating and creating things. So we cover a whole bunch of different areas, so woodworking, metalworking. I know there's some stuff with textiles and electronics and programming as well. The hands-on experience with machines is definitely the reason why I decided to take the course, since I don't have access to them otherwise. So I guess to get started with the first 2 weeks, we were doing our woodworking unit, and I don't have a huge interest in woodworking, but I kind of decided to focus on the tools that I think would be most useful to me rather than, trying to do every single tool available, since that probably will take weeks and weeks. So for me at least, the tools that were most appealing were definitely the lathe and the CNC router. I haven't used either of them. The lathe looks really fun because you're basically just spinning wood and then cutting it. It's really satisfying to watch anyways. And the CNC is just useful for building mechanical parts. All the other machines, which I think would be good for home woodworking projects. So I don't really have a need to know how to use a table saw to cut some large pieces of wood, because my projects are relatively self-contained and small. So I think the CNC router just gives a nice alternative to 3D printing, and it's definitely much faster for the size of a part that you can build. But obviously there's benefits and drawbacks. So anyways, for this unit I didn't do a really big project. I kind of wanted to get a taste of the aspects of woodworking that interest me. So the first certification I did was the lathe. And I had a couple ideas for parts I wanted to make. I was thinking of doing a honey stick, and those are pretty cool looking. Look like it could be fun to make. But the thing that I ended up settling on was making it a pawn for a chess set. I do play chess, but not very often. And I just thought a pawn would be a cool looking object to make, and would be a good way to practice some woodworking. Though there are definitely some challenges. So the first attempt that I did was literally immediately after getting certified. I just got a hunk of wood and I made a really bad pawn. There was no scale or sense of proportion. I wasn't sure how to do precise lathe work, and I wasn't really feeling like learning that same day. So I just made a pawn-like thing. It really looks more like a leg for a chair. So I can't complain. It looks okay. I was definitely having trouble with finishing it. I didn't really know how. And even after this unit, I'm still a bit unsure, but I think it's just something we'll figure out. The second attempt was actually coming along really well. I was getting the hang of using the fine wood cutting tool. A couple of tricks I learned were based on how you angle the tool can get different effects. So you put your hand on the tool rest and use your thumb as a pivot to rotate the tool. You can end up getting curves that aren't limited to the shape of the tools. Also, I realized it was super important to cut the big parts of my piece out first and then work on the fine details, because with the second attempt I made with the pawn, the part basically snapped itself in half. Oh no! This just went horribly wrong. The lathe just split my my chess piece in half, and then the rest of it got sucked up into the vacuum. Whoops. So on my third attempt, I did that strategy instead. I focused on whittling away more and not cutting so deep once I was cutting out the main features of the pawn. And it actually came out pretty great. My main challenge though was I couldn't figure out how to get a circular top piece of the pawn. It doesn't really look quite like a circle. Yeah, working with a lathe was pretty challenging since anytime I made a mistake, I couldn't really go back, so I had to kind of roll with it. And, you know, it wasn't exactly what I envisioned the pawn looking like, but it's good enough. Another thing that I was struggling with was figuring out how to separate the pawn from the stock. I still don't really know how. I kind of just did it. My second project was working with the CNC machine. This, again, was another hour training, just like the lathe was. I had an idea to make a puzzle that you complete by feeling the pieces and putting them together rather than seeing them. I didn't end up building that, but I did build a prototype just to learn how the CNC worked. I cut out a few puzzle pieces from some particle board, and it didn't come out the best, but I'll know to use a different wood next time. When I go to actually build the puzzle that you complete by texture, I'll have to go and design that in CAD, which I'm not really sure how I'm going to approach, but it's something I'll figure out once I get there. And my final project that I did this week was sharpening all of my mom's knives. I did the training for the knife sharpener in the wood shop because I was interested in doing some hand woodworking at some point, but in the meantime I decided that sharpening the knives was a good activity. So that's it for this week. I'll see you guys next time when I do some metal work. Keep on hacking, guys.